except for Lynn. But we don't give her a citizen.
You got my high seat.
Yeah, I know.
It's just everything all over. They all bring me down. Wait, one more thing I want to put this.
You pass that to Katie.
So just a second.
See you in. Ben?
Whenever you're ready.
I'm going to call to order the February 6, 2019 meeting, Urban Renewal Commission, City of Oregon City. I got a roll call.
Commissioner Steve Van Haverbeek.
Here.
Commissioner Dan Holliday.
Here.
Commissioner Rachel Lyles Smith. Here. Commissioner Mike Mitchell.
Here.
Commissioner Rocky Smith is absent this evening, and Chair O'Donnell.
Here. At this time, do we have any citizen comments that wish to be offered? Hearing none, I'll move on to adoption of the agenda.
I'm okay with the agenda.
Is everyone else okay with the agenda?
Yeah.
So noted. In terms of general business tonight, we're here to examine the purchase and sale agreements for both Lot 1 and Tract A of the Clackamas Cove. In the course of doing that, we'll probably discuss the DDAs, ensure compliance with the city charter, and address any concerns expressed by citizens, including as recently as today. At that point, I'd like to turn it over to Mr. Compo to give us a summary of action to date.
Thank you, Commissioner. Evening. So tonight we're here to discuss the purchase and sale agreement for Lot 1 and Tract A of Clackamas Cove. The Urban Renewal Commission of Oregon City approved a disposition and development agreement for the Cove project at the November 26, 2018 meeting. Section 10 on page 15 of the development agreement includes an option for the Cove LLC to purchase Lot 1 and or Tract A for $10 each. The agreement identified 3 conditions associated with the properties, including 1, the developer and commission have agreed upon a restoration consultant pursuant to section 8.2 of the development agreement, which has occurred. The developer and the commission have agreed upon the terms of the restoration agreement with the selected consultant, which has occurred. And the developer and the commission have agreed upon the terms of the easement covering a strip along the bank of Lot 1 along Clackamas Cove, approximately 100 feet upland, which will give the right to do restoration work under the restoration agreement and allow access to the commission before, during, and after the restoration work for the purpose of inspection and passage. This also has occurred. On December 18th, 2018, the Urban Renewal Commission, a letter of interest from RestoreCap, a restoration consultant, a map of the easement, as well as the easement language was approved, satisfying all the preconditions of the sale. Staff is requesting approval of the purchase and sale agreement for Tract A, as well as the purchase and sale agreement for Lot 1. So starting this afternoon, and as well as last night, we received, and I'm entering into the record, 4 exhibits. These exhibits have been put on your dais. Exhibit 1 is an email from Commissioner Smith, Rocky Smith, as it relates to tonight's meeting. Essentially, he had requested an opportunity to listen to the executive session minutes, the tapes. He was able to do that. I was able to listen to all the meetings, and I still have concerns about moving forward tonight on the sale of these properties, as well as an overall concern about the entire Cove project. I would encourage the current commission to wait to make a decision on this matter until we've had a conversation on how to address citizen concerns about urban renewal. So the entirety of his email is included as Exhibit 1. Earlier this afternoon, we received an email from Mr. Jim Nacita, essentially laying out questioning the creation of the Cove LLC, the Cove 2 LLC, which was created by Hudson Holding on January 25th, 2019, requesting the makeup of the manager of that LLC, as well as the timing of those creations of those LLCs. Does the formation of Cove 2 LLC have to do with an assignment from Cove LLC to the Cove 2 LLC? Looking at the draft purchase and sale agreements for Lot 1 and Tract A, as posted on the agenda page for Wednesday's URC meeting, both draft agreements are between the URC and the Cove LLC or assigns. So on the deed, for Lot 1 and Tract A. We did include as the buyer, the Cove LLC or assigns. Continuing on in his email, this last page. On the other hand, section 12.15 of the Disposition and Development Agreement states, neither party may assign its right or obligation on this agreement without the prior written consent of the other party, which may or not be given in the such party's sole discretion. However, developer may assign its rights and obligations with respect to a given phase, subject to the commission's approval, prior approval, and its commercially reasonable judgment. So this information was forwarded to the commission, as well as myself. I reached out to Colin Kehoe, representative for Hudson Holding, essentially the Cove LLC. He had their attorney, Kurt Rudham, attached as Exhibit 3, lay out the reason for creating the Cove LLC and the Cove LLC 2. Essentially, these are corporations created by Hudson Development, controlled by David Mooney. On the second email, last paragraph, it is possible that the lenders to the Oregon City project may insist that the project be held by a special purpose entity. The Cove 2 LLC, if and when it is fully organized, could serve in that role as a subsidiary to the Cove LLC. If such a special purpose entity is required, the Cove LLC might ask that the development agreement be assigned to the Cove 2 LLC. Such an assignment would, of course, require and be subject to the consent of the Oregon City Urban Renewal Commission. If any such assignment is requested and consented to, the terms and provisions of the development agreement would continue to govern the project as conducted by the Cove 2 LLC. Your fourth exhibit is from the urban renewal attorney, Steve Janik. I reached out to him as well to try to walk through some of these concerns and what had been put forward. Steve lays out 4 responses walking through the original email from Mr. Nacita. One relates to the formation of the LLCs. Essentially, the LLC was created when we entered into the agreement, and that's what matters. As to the second, it addresses the assignment section of the development agreement and the purchase and sale agreement. As a one option, I believe that everyone interprets that, if we're going to change the assignment, the Urban Renewal Commission needs to approve that. However, Steve does recommend, if the commission so decides to move forward, we could amend the purchase and sale agreements to remove or assigns from the buyer, and we could add that the board approves the purchase and sale agreement. It could condition that on there being no assignment of the purchase and sale agreement without the URA's prior written approval. So if we make a motion to proceed with approval, we could certainly add that. We would amend that as a condition to the purchase and sale agreement on Tract A and Lot 1. At the present time, the Cove LLC is the party to the DDA and the party to the purchase and sale agreement. So they are aware that any assignment would need to be approved by the Urban Renewal Agency. And then he goes into the difference between a manager and a member, essentially identifying how those make up an LLC. And essentially, he does not see anything wrong with what has been put forward in the creation of those entities. So a lot of kind of information at the last minute here, but essentially, the agreement is with Cove LLC. That's who's identified in the development agreement. That's who's identified in the purchase and sale agreement for both purchases. We could condition the purchase and sale agreement so that it is crystal clear that any assignment to another entity would need to be approved by the commission as a condition of the sale on both those agreements. And just don't see anything that we've identified as an issue as it relates to the creation, membership, or management of the LLC. With that, I will go ahead and stop and answer any questions that you might have all of a sudden.
Well, first, does anyone on the commission need additional time to digest this most recent information? A few minutes. Okay. that not being needed. In view of Commissioner Smith's letter, is there anyone who would like to postpone consideration, make a motion, postpone consideration of this until a later date? Hearing none, we'll proceed.
So,
Frank, if I may.
Yes, please.
I think truthfully, for public meetings, it comes down to whether or not we have a quorum. And if we have a quorum that wants to proceed, if Rocky were here, he could vote in nay, I mean, if you tally all the votes that we have, we have a quorum to make a decision. He's shared with us his opinion. So I think we just take that into consideration when we're making our decisions, but legally, we have the quorum to proceed, so.
I agree with that statement. I believe, I was involved in this because I passed along this communication that was sent by Mr. Nacita today for consideration to Mr. Conkle and our legal staff. This commission are not professional, we're not lawyers. We act on the advice of legal counsel. Our advice is before us here. We're giving due consideration to all the things that we spoke about earlier. At this point, do you need to do a reading of it, or do we just
No.
open it for discussion?
just open it for.
Is there any, go ahead, Dan.
I would move to approve the purchase and sale agreement for Lot 1 and Tract A of the Clackamas Cove with the addition of a condition that on there being no assignment of the PSA without the URA's prior, Urban Renewal Agency's prior written approval.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Chair O'Donnell,
Yes, go ahead.
I agree with what Commissioner Holliday just proposed. My concern is I have not had an opportunity to review Mr. Janik's letter, but the two things that concern me, and perhaps it's spelled out in his letter, one would be is our right that we've talked about previously to pull back Tract A and Lot 1 in the event of them not performing. Is that right still protected?
Yes.
And the other issue that I have, at our meeting a few days ago, the Planning Commission approved several land use issues related to this project, primarily having to do with site grading, with a number of conditions. And that agreement, that proposal, land use proposal, came from Cove LLC. And I'm going to rely on Mr. Janik's letter. Are we still fully able to enforce all of those conditions of approval agreed to by the Planning Commission if it turns out that we're dealing with Cove LLC 1?
So,
Would you like to speak to that, Mr. Conkle?
So, thank you, Commissioner Mitchell. Yes, the ability to have the property revert back to the Urban Renewal Agency is not impacted. So Exhibit D is the statutory bargain and sale deed, which will be recorded as part of the property. And it says the conveyance and the property are subject to a right of reversion in favor of grantor on the following terms and conditions. In the event the grantee has not commenced grading on the property pursuant to a City of Oregon City issued grading permit within 6 years of the recording date of the statutory bargain and sale agreement, then it shall automatically revert back to grantor. So I'm comfortable that, yes, the reversionary clause exists for both of those lots. And then, once again, I think getting back to what both their attorney acknowledged is that any assignment must be requested and consented to, the terms and provisions of the DDA. So I'm comfortable that, any conditions of approval as required of the land use are required to get a C of O, a condition of occupancy on the project. So I don't have any concerns there. We wouldn't issue an occupancy permit if the conditions aren't met.
So, and to be clear, Mike, the information that I have in front of me says that the Cove 2 LLC while it has been filed with the Secretary of State, they have not done the incorporation materials nor, really done anything else with it. So it's basically just a placeholder in case they have some other thing they need to do. So it doesn't, at this point in time, it does not really have anything to do with the project that we're talking about.
And I'll
Okay, understood, thank you.
And I'll comment on that additionally. It would appear that we are still dealing with the same principles from day one, just a chain of events here. I'm very comfortable. I took the time actually to go back and listen to our executive session meetings. I made notes on that. The key characteristics that make me comfortable with this, where I otherwise would not be, are the reversion agreement, the restrictions on time frame. The assignment is a key piece, and I agree with Mr. Dan Holliday's statement about amending the motion that it has no assignment without approval. That is key and necessary. So with those in place, I'm comfortable with the agreement as it stands.
Can I make a statement?
Please do.
As a very new member to the Oregon, or to the Urban Renewal Committee, at this point, as I mentioned to you earlier, I have not been able to take the extra time needed to listen to hours of executive session tapes as Commissioner Rocky Smith has done and requested, and my understanding has done so. So my position on this, and I just want this to be clear for the record, my position on this is I'm relying on previous commissioners who set up here who I believe have integrity to make good decisions. And I do not feel like it is in good form or representative of the city to try to stop a lot of work that has been started long before I set up here. And I recognize and appreciate all of the work of current commissioners and previous commissioners who've put in time and effort to review all these documents. With that said, as a new person, the comments from Mr. Nacita, from a public perspective, just come across shady. I mean, I don't know any other way to say it. The Cove LLC 2 versus the Cove LLC, the idea that they're doing this just so that they can do other projects in Oregon just happens to be the same name as their other primary development contract that they have going on. Very similar. It's hard for me to buy that argument. If I were someone in the public looking at that, I would probably read that statement and be like, there's some backhanded deals going on. As you said, I'm not a lawyer. I believe what the lawyers have said, and it probably is completely legal, and everything they're doing is completely legal. Just know that I could easily see plenty of people trying to figure this out, because I am one of them, and seeing it as it not being very clear, that it could be perceived as the manager of this one is now the buyer of this one, and their names are the same, and it's just hard to come to grips with. And I am concerned that there would be some folks who would think that they're maybe setting up some shady deals or something that would cause question, or maybe not look as forthcoming as contractual negotiations and buyer-seller agreements should be. So I'll close with that. It's a long-winded statement, but I just want to make it really clear where I stand, and I've given this a lot of thought of how I'm supposed to make a vote on something that I haven't been able to spend hours and hours and hours of time on as other commissioners have.
And Commissioner, I'm certain everybody on this commission and the public is respectful of that position, as am I. I know how difficult it is, as one that sat through the previous meetings, as one who took the time to go back and listen again, as one who forwarded this most recent letter for legal consideration because I'm not comfortable with it because of the arena we're in. Each of us will vote as we see fit and proceed from there. So do we have a motion on the table?
We do. We have a motion and a second on the floor. But before we vote, if I might
Please do.
make a comment.
Yep.
So in response to Commissioner Smith's statement, while I understand coming into something new and not having all the information, you know, sometimes you just got to go, well, I don't really know, so I'm going to go along with the deal. But I think it's important to understand the context in which this information comes. And Mr. Nacita has a long history in Oregon City of dropping large documents on us the night of, a couple hours before a meeting that might be, like I said, 50, 75 pages long of you know, arcane legal stuff that we're supposed to kind of try to digest and figure out what he's talking about. When at the end of the day, I think he sued either the city or a project that the city is involved in 5 times and has never won a single case. So what Mr. Nacita does is try to obfuscate, delay, kill, basically anything he can do to prevent anything good from happening in Oregon City. And that's purely my opinion, all right? It's not a statement from the commission. It's not a statement from the mayor. It's a statement from me as an urban renewal commissioner and as an observer. I have spent thousands and thousands and thousands of volunteer hours in this community, whether it's been on the school board, the city commission, numerous various other things. And this guy spent a couple of years and got recalled from the city commission for just exactly this kind of stuff, where he's trying to be a lawyer at the same time he was sitting on the city commission. Cost us thousands of hours of time and legal fees. So when I get something from Mr. Nacita, I have a tendency to discount the veracity, and that's all I have to say.
Well, I'm going to speak to that because I don't believe we should be disparaging anybody. I think all input is welcome. I understand the history, but I also, when this letter was forwarded to me today, I wanted to give it due consideration from the citizen. I do struggle with the 11th hour introduction of things for consideration because this is a volunteer commission that is doing many other things besides that. Having said that, and disregarding comments on any one or all of his previous relationship with Mr. Nacita, the question at hand is the question at hand without regard to that.
Call the question.
Calling the question. If we need it restated, we can.
So a motion's been made by Commissioner Holliday and seconded by Commissioner Van Haverbeek, and I will go ahead and move forward with the roll call. Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyles Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday,
Aye.
Chair O'Donnell.
Aye.
Thank you. We have the recommendation with the amended condition that relates to the clarity of the assignment. So I will be adding that into the purchase and sale agreement, negotiating that with the buyer. Preliminary discussion with them was okay, but we need to finalize that language. As long as it's consistent with that, I am moving forward with this agreement. I am not planning to bring this back as long as I meet what's been voted on. If it gets off a track, we might see it again, but I don't anticipate that it will. So thank you very much.
Understood. Moving forward to item 19-106, 4B on our agenda. I'm sorry. Go
Move to approve the minutes of the December 19th, 2018 regular meeting. Second.
Moved by Commissioner Holliday, seconded by Commissioner Van Haverbeek, and I will call the roll. Commissioner Mitchell,
Aye.
Commissioner Van Haverbeek,
Aye.
Commissioner Lyles Smith,
Aye.
Commissioner Holliday,
Aye.
and Chair O'Donnell.
Aye. Are there any future agenda items that to be brought to our attention tonight? Hearing none, does the city manager have anything he needs or wishes to report?
Just one update. So today, Commissioner Van Haverbeek and Commissioner Mitchell, you've received via email the City of Oregon City Urban Renewal Agency Annual Financial Report. So we attached the comprehensive annual financial report for Oregon City and the financial report for the Urban Renewal Agency that ended June 30th, 2018. So essentially we had Marina and Company do the audits of our financial records, and they both came back as clean, unmodified opinions. So those are for the city commissioners who are acting urban renewal commissioners. You have both the City of Oregon City and the Urban Renewal financial report on the dais in front of you, and for the 2 urban renewal citizen members, those have been emailed to you. And so have a enjoyable read, and let us know if you have any questions or concerns. But congratulations to the finance department on putting together a budget again that came back clean, unmodified, going through that audit. So just wonderful, great work that goes into that.
If there are no further items of discussion tonight, I'll declare this meeting adjourned.
Wait,
Oh,
sorry.
sorry. I didn't see you.
Sorry, can I return to number 5, future agenda items?
Certainly.
Chair O'Donnell, have you considered when the commission will discuss the Urban Renewal Commission in general and how we move forward, or how we want to move forward? This came up at the city retreat of addressing public concern. Do you have any kind of timeline or anything like that on which we might expect that?
Well, I guess there's one, we could move forward sooner, but realizing that we have a new commissioner potentially within the next month, which we'll see how that plays out, which could have other impacts. I can move forward with what we have now as a membership, or we can wait till we have a full Urban Renewal Commission decided. So we're kind of, I've been waiting in a holding pattern just till things kind of work themselves out.
Seems to me that we ought to hold off on having that holistic discussion, because obviously I have a new commissioner coming on, and possibility of the makeup of the actual Urban Renewal Commission might change at that point. So my opinion would be, let's wait, let's hire the new city commissioner, and then see what other changes that might ensue from that, and then we could have a holistic discussion about our use of urban renewal in the future.
I also prefer to defer that until the other commissioners on board. I think it's going to be a critical decision point in the city, and how we structure that, or how we choose to proceed or not proceed, is a discussion that I would like to have everybody on board for that discussion. Yes.
Agree.
Okay.
Agreed.
That being said, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.